integrating to the ERP and also the slide. So as you can see, these are the very warehouse-focused type of capabilities that it's as minimum results, as a minimum requirement, it's expected from a warehouse management system. But on the other side, often deliver us efficiency. Is reliant on the information that we are getting out of the WMS, but the whole aspect is different, the whole task is different. Some of the capabilities are like the scanners integration, when you have, for example, a conveyor-based solution that which scan the products on the conveyor in the different multiple points so they can divert it. Real-time data visibility, the machine control and weight and motion detection. For example, so for high-value commodities, for example, in tobacco or for very high-value electronic device, we want to make sure that the weight and motion is there. So these are the capabilities that we require the output of them as the order verification from WCS, but the actual functionality, it's not necessarily going to sit with the WMS. Okay, so I try not to make it very technical, to be honest, but I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of the structure, of the data structure, of how these two systems are going to talk to each other, right? So, in very simple terms, as you can see, there is an application sits on the top. So that's our stream. It could be our WMS, it could be the ERP, it could be MES, or etc. What it sits at the supplier level. Then, from the other side, the messages are being sent to the WCS, which it comes with different layers. There is a bit of a administration, which receives the information out of our application. It goes to a user, and then it goes to the human medium interface, which it analyzes the data with connection to the different database and the information that the systems get from both sides, and then sends the information to the downstream, which is the actual equipment. So if you want to picture that, this is how, in 3 layers, WMS and WCS, they're going to integrate together. So as you can see, it's like a loop. You send the information in, you get a feedback, and then it's like a neural network. You optimize, and perform a PDCA cycle. All right, so warehouse control system is a black box, right? So warehouse control systems are complex systems. So a lot of the 3PLs or the companies that are integrating in it, they just want some simple input and output information. There is a lot of AI, there is a lot of complexity sits inside it. So that's actually where the magic happens. So the 3PL... Oh, sorry. Thanks for noting. So what I was saying is that the supplier or the company that is using the automation, they are just only taking care of sending the data and getting the proper data back from the system. So a lot of magic is actually happening inside that WCS. That's why we call it black box. We don't know, and a lot of times it's like a IP of the company, of the provider, that they keep their algorithms, the optimization algorithms. It's within the system. Sometimes they share, sometimes they don't share. But at the end of the day, it sits inside that black box. How the orders are being processed or how the information is being processed within that, that's not that much of a concern of the user, as long as we get the proper input and output data. So that's why we call it as a black box, because that's where all the magic happens. But why? Why we are treating it like this? Why we are not integrating this into the WMS? So there are some key reasons for it, right? So first of all, it's complexity. Just consider the algorithm of a neural network of optimization, right? This by itself, it's very complicated. It requires a lot of simulation. Real-time is required like some cloud-based information to increase the pace of analysis. And there's a lot of engineering in the background, which not necessarily is what is required for a 3PL or a user to do. So For that side, a 3PL, it's not maybe just cost viable or feasible for a 3PL to actually invest on building their own WCS, right? The other one is the cost. Well, with complexity comes with cost. More constraint comes with cost. There are developers' costs, there are integration costs, there are server costs that's required to maintain that WCS, right? This actual software. Economy of scale. The automation suppliers in the market, they actually invest on their WCS and they can spread the cost across multiple customers which they have. Which, if you are just a 3PL and you want to run it for your operation, you are limited with your portfolio of the products or the customers within that site. So, as you can see, the economy of scale is sitting much more favorable toward the providers, not on the supplier side. And, you know, that you can buy the WCS cheaper than if you actually develop it yourself. And then the maintenance. Again, this gets back to the complexity. So an algorithm is not working. Normally a 3PL or a warehouse logistics provider, we don't have that expert of the IT expert that it can dig into the data if we don't have a dedicated team just allocating to developing the WCS. So for that reason as well, that's why we are having the WCS sits outside of the WMS. Okay, so now, as I told you, I want to discuss a couple of key functionalities that from a 3PL point of view, we want to have from WCS to be able to run our operations in a very optimized manner. The list is long, right? I mean, you can have like hundreds and thousands of the functionalities you could list. This is based on some of our recent feedback, which we have gone much more into the e-com market as well, that these are the key functionalities that were key to us in terms of the operation to get a quick win and a quick gain on the automation and give us a quick ROI or return on investment. So the first one, the order segregation capability, right? So a lot of WCS that are sitting in the market, they just get the data from WMS, and what they do is they're just passing us through them, whether they weigh it. But what is important, especially in an e-com, apologies. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you, especially in the e-com, the order segregation is one of the key functionalities that we can expect from a WCS. So the next topic is the dynamic real-time slotting. So slotting, it's one of the hot topics in the warehouse. The fast movers, the slow movers, the medium movers, how you position them within the warehouse. It's not just going to apply to the SKUs in the warehouse, but it's the positioning of the SKUs within the automation. The next topic is the shipping label creation at peak. So this is something that we have seen a lot in Australia. We are working with several WCS, and this is one of the key functionalities we expect. Of course, I mean, I'm going to explain that in detail, but that requires like further integration with different carriers, which I'm going to explain why. And then the other one is, which is still, to be honest, I've worked with a lot of WCS, we have a lot of business case, seen a lot of sites. It's still a very live and operational KPI dashboard. We are still sensing the lack of it. So we go through all these 4 topics. I try to make it less technical and more interesting for you. All right, the first one, the order segregation. As I was saying, this is mainly toward the e-com. As you know, the e-com, we have moved toward e-com, and you know the volume of the e-com has been increased significantly, especially with the pandemic and COVID-19. So we have seen a very big rise in the in e-com orders. So what is important for us is to know that if our WCS is able to segregate the orders. So the issue with the e-com orders, because the order sizes are small, so you're talking about maybe 1 or 2 lines per order or 1 or 2 units per line, for example. The order size is small. You are doing a lot of walking distance to fulfill the order. So unless you batch them, it doesn't make sense that you go and just pick them one by one. So what is important here is one of the key features that we have seen is on the WMS, WCS side of e-com operation is if you can segregate the orders. So we send the information to the WCS, and the WCS look at the data and segregate the orders. So we have the single unit orders and the multi-unit orders. So that requires sorting. Why this is important? Why we need to segregate single unit order versus the multi-unit? It's just the single unit orders, they don't require sorting. As simple as that. So you simply pick them at the picking station, and if they are ready to pack. So that is, so no sorting required, then we can have a higher productivity. We have actually modeled and we have seen as a proof of concept that we can have up to 20% increase in our productivities, and the packing will be efficient. How? Because what it does is, the packers, they don't look into, look at the box, what is in there to confirm the SKUs. All they can do is just, they know that, this one unit is actually one order. So you can put each one of them, they don't require sorting. You can put, for example, you're picking USBs, you put 10 USBs into one tote, send it to packer, each one is an order. They don't need to confirm anything at the end of the day. So what type of applications does this have? The type of the application that, or the automation that using it are the ones that at the end of the pick, you require to segregate the orders, right? So AMR, that's a big example, right? So you have pods, AMR brings them to you, at the end of the day, it's the picker, you have a read involved, you just pick the items, and then you sort them. So if you know that the orders are coming to you, or the pods are being presented to you in a single unit order manner, you don't need to go through the pick vault. So you can segregate that saves you 2 or 3 more clicks for the order confirmation. You can pick them, put them on a conveyor, or put it on a tote, and just send it to the packing station. The other one is a SkyPod. That is a new concept. Sivo actually have implemented this in Benelux, in Netherlands, in Roosendaal, for one of our operations. It's a very new concept. It takes away the need for the conveyors. You have this high density storage. There are robots, which call them SkyPods, that are similar to AMR, but what they can do, they can get hold of the uprights of the racking, and they can go up and down, pick the totes, bring it to the station, and move it back. And then the other one is the smart trolleys. So you can link the smart trolleys with the AMR, but as long as you don't need to go through the sorting, then you can bypass the smart trolley. Okay. Next one is the dynamic real-time slotting. So why slotting is important? It actually drives efficiencies for us in terms of, in the high density automated solution. When, for example, you have a very large grid, it is very important that you know the slotting is right. So you minimize the movement of your products, you minimize the movement of your equipment, which is, I'll discuss on the benefit. I assume everyone in the room is familiar with the word slotting and what it does in the warehousing, but in case, just a bit of a teaching, just the SKUs that represents, for example, to 85% of the sales, we categorize them as B. The one represents between 85 to 95%, we represent them as B, and then the one they're going to sell less, or like contribute on 5% of the sale, we treat them as C. So it's very important that we identify this in real time, especially with automation. Why? Because automation is not a storage solution. Automation is a very expensive piece of storage. So you want to make sure right SKUs are being hauled into the automation. So why the slotting is very important? First of all, less wear and tear. Because as long as we have the ASQs in the front, you actually move your robots or the shuttles or the equipment in the system less, so less wear and tear. And of course, one of the key things is if the WCS offers this, is you can real time, you can identify the profile of the SKU sitting in there. As I said, we don't want to have data SKUs in there. There is no use for putting a data SKU in a very expensive storage medium, right? And you want to also look at, for example, if something is running super fast, like you are selling it like 3 or 4 pallets a week, a day of it, that's also not suitable for your automation because it will kill your robots. So you're looking at what is the proper, a good mix between the like a B, B's and up to the C. So you keep it in there. So a good WCS is the one that can give you this sort of identification. So you can, rather than you get a data dump and you do the analysis in the background and then the profile change, you already get this real time. All right, next one. So this is actually a very debating matter, whether this functionality sits in the WMS or whether it sits with the WCS. So what is this shipping level? So when you order, when you finish the order, actually you need to print a shipping label so the carrier knows where this item is going. So a lot argue that, okay, this functionality needs to sit at the supplier, which is on the WMS, or sit at the provider of the WMS automation, which is the WCS. So based on what we have done, and also based on the proof of concept that we have run, it is more efficient to have this functionality sits on the WCS side. First of all, for one reason. The WCS, because of the economy of scale, the providers can have this as a proper connection with all the carriers within the local country that or the region that they're working on, and then it's going to be like a unified solution that can be sold to different 3PLs. The other side is that reduces the system work from your packing stage. So what does this mean is, when you finish the pick, if you have the shipping label, what the pickers only need to do is just simply pack the items. They are not going to do any system work. So you reduce the bottleneck from your packing processes. That's why it improves the packing productivity for you. And it reduces the bottleneck. Again, some of the applications that this will work toward is AMR, SkyPod, AutoStore, which is utilized by a couple of companies within Australia, and the shuttle system of the ASRs. And last but not least is the live operational KPI dashboard. So WCS and WMS, they're all about data, right? They are not going to run themselves without having data, and we need to make sure that we get a good understanding and what I say, a good grip of what's happening, what's the profile, how the data is evolving within our operations. So that's why we need to, from a 3PL side, we need to have some sort of a live visibility on a couple of functionalities, some key functionals from WCS. Of course, I understand all the WCS, they store the volume. They're using, for example, the cloud-based services. They're using, Amazon Web Services as well. They have a big, a data bank of big data that they can maintain, and that's good. They can give it to WMS, to the 3PL providers to do the analysis to understand. Okay, that's the order profile, that's the stock saturation within the system, that is the data stock identification. But at the end of the day, that's not. Although we can have analysts in there, analysis takes time, especially when you're talking about big data, right? And this data, on the warehousing, although it may look complex, actually warehousing is very simple, right? There are some key data points that you need to have a good grip on to make sure that the automation or your warehouse operation is running in a smooth pace. So if we have a WCS that provides live data, which includes like the picking productivity. Well, picking productivity, this is the biggest proven, this is the biggest part of any business case when you are working on a automation. So on warehouse, picking productivity is determining how much you're going to save, and then that ties up with your return on investment. Then the replenishment productivity, that's also another part which is very important, how to feed the information, because at the end of the day, it's a storage system that you need to pick from, on top of your normal racking and a normal conventional storage system. A stock saturation at ABC. So the system tells you, all right, the SKUs that I have in the system based on the order profile that you have fed me, this is what percentage are sitting at A, this is what percentage at B, what percentage at C. The storage utilization, well, that is very common. So, okay, I have 10,000 totes within this grid, 8,500 of it is filled, so that's 85%. The downtime intervals, we need to understand how much intervals you have between the downtime, and one of the key things is the AI behind the bottleneck identification. So we understand what is stopping us from having a just-in-time or one-piece flow operation. So again, this type of dashboard applies to all sort of automation that we have seen in the market. All right, that is the 4 key points from a trivial point of view. I hope you enjoy it, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alan. Alan will actually be joining us on the next panel, so there will be more opportunities to ask questions. But if you have anything burning right now to ask Alan Mackey from Siva Logistics, do take the opportunity. Okay, if not, then we'll leave the questions to the panel session. Can I also start to invite our other panelists for the next session? That's Ramon and Brett.